COVID-19 pandemic, at its fundamental root, is a travel-related illness. It spread around the world in a few weeks or months because humans brought it around the world through international travel. You should remember that when you travel internationally, that there's a whole bunch of infections that you could pick up overseas, and you could bring it back into your home community. The good news is, for many of those infections, we have ways to lessen the likelihood you're going to get ill. So we would ask you to seek medical advice before you travel internationally. Each year in the United States, approximately 30 million individuals travel to resource-limited areas overseas. But unfortunately, only 25 or 30% of those individuals seek any medical advice before they go. And partly for that reason, we're seeing increasing numbers of illnesses that people pick up overseas, like malaria and typhoid, and they're bringing it back into the United States and spreading some of these illnesses among their home communities. To lessen the likelihood that you would get ill when you're overseas, you need to stratify your risk. You need to say, who am I? What medical conditions do I have? Where am I going? How long will I be there? And what will I do when I'm there? That will delineate the list of what illnesses you might want to worry about or not worry about on the trip. The good news is, for many illnesses you acquire overseas, like malaria or typhoid or Japanese encephalitis, we have vaccines or pills, and we know that there are ways that you could just do minor changes to your behavior, and you might markedly decrease the likelihood you're going to get any infection. My recommendation is, once you've decided you're going to go on an international trip or you're thinking of a place, go to the CDC website, look it up, and look to see what the CDC would recommend for what vaccines you might want to think about or any medicines you might want to take. The CDC, through Mass General, also supports a program that's free on the web called headinghomehealthy.org. It's supported by the CDC, and it gives up-to-date, simple recommendations based on destination country. So if you're going to a country, say in sub-Saharan Africa or Latin America, it'll clearly tell you if you need the yellow fever vaccine. It'll also tell you if you might be at risk for malaria on the trip and which malaria medicines might be appropriate for you. Measles is still widespread in many places around the world, and interestingly, measles also still spreads in places of the world that we don't think of as putting us at higher risk for infectious diseases, areas like Western Europe. So even if you're going on what you would consider a low-risk trip, you should make sure you're up to date for your routine vaccines, including measles. From the infectious disease point of view, probably one of the most common illnesses that international travelers get is what we call traveler's diarrhea. So you can lessen this likelihood by being careful with the food and water that you drink. And if you do get diarrhea when you're overseas, please stay hydrated and make sure you eat some simple foods also to keep your sugars and salts up. Some providers will give you an antibiotic so that if you get a severe case of diarrhea when you're overseas, that you'll be able to self-treat yourself. Please discuss this with your provider. If you were to become ill, especially a few days to a few weeks after returning home, please seek medical attention. And please notify your healthcare provider that you were recently overseas. That'll broaden their differential and make it more likely that they'll figure out what's making you ill and get you the appropriate treatment that you need. International travel is wonderful. It's a way to see the world and interact with other cultures and peoples. Just remember, with a few simple steps, you can make it most likely that you'll have a wonderful and safe time overseas and return to your family with no illnesses and great memories. For more information on influenza, please take a look at my video here.